Hey, I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married.
With children.
We're married 2 years now.
Blended for 11.
Like a margarita.
Yeah, baby, like a margarita.
And you're listening to the Everything Always podcast.
Want to tell them why we do this?
We do this because blending families isn't easy. There's step-parenting, co-parenting, his ex,
Her ex.
schedules, sibling rivalry,
Money issues.
custody issues.
Dating and relationship issues.
It's a whole lot of stuff.
Blended with a whole lot of good stuff.
And we're here to talk about all of it because we've done most of it.
We might not be experts, but we've learned a lot.
And we're still learning, and we want to share that with you.
Thanks for joining. Now let's go.
We're back.
Hello. How's it going?
Okay, so today we're going to talk about hard stuff. How to talk about hard stuff with your kids.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, today already, in today's climate, how many times, by the way, are you hearing the word unprecedented times? Today's climate.
New normal.
Unsettling. The new normal. Pivot your... It's like there's... All of these words are just like, ah!
A lot of change. A lot of things
Words
going
of 2020, yes. But no, today, in all honesty, today there are a lot of topics and hard things going on, and they're igniting some hard conversations. And not only the hard conversations of today, like distance learning, politics, viruses, all of these things. Those are hard conversations, but also...
You might be having to have the conversation about the birds and the bees right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say. There's talks about...
At every level, there's a different hard conversation waiting to be had.
There is. There's talk about divorce. You might be at that point where you're like, I'm considering divorce, or I'm dating somebody new and I have to talk to my kids about introducing this person. Or, hey guys, guess what? We're getting married and blending the family. Or you're talking about drinking, going to parties and drugs.
It could be the hard conversation with the little guys about, hey, listen, you're probably wondering why everyone's wearing masks and the fact that we never leave our house.
Right.
How do we have that conversation in a way that isn't going to freak little kids out?
Exactly. So there's a lot of hard stuff going on top of the hard stuff we already deal with as humans, and especially as our particular audience in blended families and going through divorce and having new relationships. So what we thought we would do is put together some tips that can help you when you are having these hard conversations with your kids.
And like we always say, we are not professionals. We are not doctors. We may not even be giving good tips. We come at it from the perspective of, here's some of the things we try to do, some of the things that we think could be valuable.
Or that have actually been valuable to us.
Or have worked for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so from that standpoint, it's a conversation, right? We're learning as much from everyone else as we are hopefully, helping people avoid landmines and not make the same mistakes that we have maybe already made, or things that we wish we would have done that we're trying to do now.
But we're only 3 episodes away of actually being the experts and knowing everything. So check in on that.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. We are finally going to get We Know Everything credentials.
Yeah. We Know Everything Always podcast.
That's funny.
Okay. So in putting these tips together, the thought was, let's go at this for any age that you can actually have a conversation with your child.
Sure, and we might swing it a little bit and discuss whatever. But yeah, I think that's a good idea.
So here's the first one. And I know that this doesn't work based on experience, and I know what can work based on experience.
And I'm not really sure, and I'm looking at Summer's notes here. The first one says, ignore the conversation and push it off as long as possible until it becomes irrelevant and you no longer have to have the conversation. Summer, that is brilliant.
Isn't it brilliant? Show over. Yeah. Avoidance. Okay. No. So no, the first thing is stay away from lectures. Don't you even know this as a kid, and then probably as a parent, you still have done it. But when you have to sit there and listen, and like that's it. You just sit there and listen, and the adult is just going on and on and on and on, like an actual lecture.
Might sound like our podcast. Just kidding. Hopefully just kidding.
No, but we've experienced this as adults, even with other adults. And it's true that we feel like we know a lot. We feel like when we're trying to tell our teenage daughter, hey, here's the reason why you can't wear your shorts that short, and you lecture and lecture, she's probably not paying attention because you're lecturing on all these reasons that you have, but you're not actually listening to her input.
So if you're not going to lecture, then what do you recommend?
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna get to that, but I first want people to understand why, because I think a lot of people don't realize that they're actually doing this. Where you're just like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. And then your kid's like, oh, here we go. Here we go.
Eye roll, folded arms.
Totally. And they're just going,
sunken
okay,
into the couch. Like, as soon as this is over, I can get back to doing exactly what I was doing.
When do I get to go back to my video game? I hope that all of my licorice is still there and that my sister didn't steal all of it.
The chance is gone.
Do you think that he'll still let me go to my friend's house after this? Maybe if I just pretend like I'm interested, like that's what's going on. They're not actually absorbing all of this material that you're hoping they are and becoming a new person when they walk out the door. So
they're not?
No, they're really not.
Dang it.
So despite your good intentions, they're not going to walk away doing exactly what you say that they should do. And if you know this as yourself, you don't want to be talked at. Nobody wants to be talked at. You want to be included in the conversation and have a say, because when you start to like get to express yourself as well, then you're actually engaged in the conversation because your voice matters.
That's true. I think the key is to try to get the conversation to a point where they're feeling engaged.
Yeah.
You need to listen to their side, listen to their opinion, get their perspective as to the things that are going on, which might also help change your perspective a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Well, so if there's talking about hard conversations, let's the sex conversation, right? Oops, I almost spilled coffee on you. Remember that one time we did a live and I spilled my coffee all over?
Literally, so just to take a little break just for just a second. And what just happened right now, Summer tried to adjust herself in her seat. And once again, luckily, she's got really cool cups now that have lids. So it minimized the splash that would have been all over me right now.
I am the clumsiest person. But yeah, we were doing our live and that's what I did. But it
was super hot too. So she kind of like whipped around and just knocked the coffee mug directly all over the front of me. And I don't think we even stopped. I think we were just like, I'll be right back because I need to go get this scalding coffee off of me. That rhymes a little bit. Wow. Okay. Anyway, so back to the topic.
Okay. So here's the thing. If it is a hard conversation, which we're talking about having, it's already going to be uncomfortable. So if you're like, hey, we need to have the sex conversation, right? It's already
and maybe you don't even need to label it that. Go,
no.
Hey, we need to have, you're growing up, you're getting more mature. It's time for us to talk about some things because you're bigger, better, stronger, whatever the thing is, right? Get them kind of like, oh yeah, I am kind of like that. I do want to have this conversation. It's finally my time to show you how I'm actually an adult at 12.
Well, the thing is to get them to, you can ask them questions to start the conversation. What are your thoughts on this? Also, listen to what they have to say. It might even be something that you don't agree with, or you're just like, what are they even talking about? But listen to it and acknowledge it because it's meaningful to them. And allowing them to have their voice and not just be talked at is going to open them up and want to talk more. It just gets them engaged. It's like us with conversations. And that's just how you create that whole back and forth, because you might go into something and have this whole list of things of here are the things that we're going to talk about. Here's what's important. Here's what they need to know. But then once they start to express what's going on in their mind, which is probably very different, that's going on in your mind or what you think is going on, then you might realize, oh, wait, maybe this is what we really need to be talking about. And now you've opened it up so that later on you can even have more conversations about that topic. So in the example of let's talk about hey, Mark and I have been dating for a while and we're talking about, and we're talking about taking next steps. So instead of sitting there and going, hey, here's what's going to happen. we're moving in together. We're getting married. We're blending the family. Hope you like his kids. This is what's going on. Blah,
Oh,
blah,
man,
blah, blah,
and
blah.
this is an
And
important conversation
you're gonna
because
have
your
to be,
life will be so much better if you can get your kids buy-in.
yes. But how do you do that? They have to have a say. They have to be able to express themselves and say, you know what? I'm not comfortable with that.
And here's why.
I don't feel this
Yeah.
way. I don't like his daughter. We don't get along. If I have to live in a house with her, I mean,
When he's around, you don't pay any attention to me.
Yep. You
Right.
need to hear all of those concerns because it's going to help navigate what your next choices are, how you're going to do things, and also just
hey,
letting them.
Maybe you'll actually listen to that and get a little perspective and determine that the decision that you're about to make might not even be the decision that's the right one.
Right.
And you might have to put yourself second for a minute.
But do you know what else happens? And I've seen this happen with our kids actually, when they talk about something after they've gotten it out and get it off of their chest and actually feel heard and acknowledged.
It
that
opens up
thing,
for them
that
to
thing
be
that was
open
so
to something different.
Yeah. And they're just like, well, wait a minute. Now that I know you're on my side, maybe I am open to making this work. Maybe I can grow to like Mark or whatever. What I'm saying is that there's this whole, people mostly get so
just
frustrated.
You're going to have the conversation doesn't mean you're going to get your way.
That's right.
You can't make anyone feel something.
You can't. But
good luck with that.
But you can at least open it up and get somewhere together by letting them feel acknowledged and letting their feelings feel acknowledged.
That's right. And I think that is the first step to being able to get somebody to potentially change their mind or understand.
Or just be on board with what's going to happen next, because all people aren't, especially when it comes to a blended family, you can't make a decision just based on one person's unhappiness or one person because I really want this or that. It is going to have to be a collaborative thing. And there's going to be people. I mean, we had it in our family where it's just like the boys, like, we don't want to share a room. The girls wanted to, the boys didn't. Then it was like, okay, but this is the situation. What can we do to make this work? Can we have times where you get your alone time? You have to come together, but let them feel heard. It's not just, well, too bad. That's the way it's going to be. Do you know what I mean?
You as the adult can probably force that, but I guarantee you it will not work out for you.
Nope, it won't.
I mean, if you can, even if it's like you're not going to get what you want, I'm sorry, you're going to have to share a room. At least you can have empathy. You can talk about the situation, the fact that there isn't another option, because sometimes there's not.
Right.
The conversation might be, this is you're doing this, and this has to be like this, but let's have a conversation as to why.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation as to why I'm concerned, my feelings. Let me listen to yours, right? These are good active listening and communication skills that you can use for all things in your life, but especially when you're having conversations with your kids.
Well, which leads into the very next thing, which is not just hearing and acknowledging, but actually having empathy.
That's very good. And if you've heard some of our other episodes, if you're a narcissist, you don't have any empathy, so you better figure it out.
Figure out your empathy. You need to not just listen to their concerns. So one big thing that happens is, we know with very, close friends of ours, family members, people that they're dating somebody, and they've gotten divorced, and their kids, have been adapting just
Hopefully
to the divorce.
Hopefully they got divorced before they were dating somebody.
Sorry. So what I'm saying is,
I think they understand.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is the kids have just experienced their parents going through divorce, and it's rattling, it's stressful. There's all kinds of things going on. It's upsetting. Then all of a sudden, one parent is like, well, I've met someone, I really like them, and we've been dating a little while. And the kids are like, I don't want you to date anyone. I just want you to myself, or I'm not comfortable with this. And it's hard. So not only do you want to listen to what they're feeling, but actually put yourself in their position. How would that feel for you? That probably would feel uncomfortable if you were a kid and you're like, wait a minute. So I just lost both of my parents being together, and now I have to be okay with you talking about this other person. I don't want to hear about this other person. Enough, or some couples are just like,
surprise. You got a new dad.
Gosh, that would be. Do you know, growing up, I had a friend that happened to.
Yeah.
Literally her
Can't
father,
imagine.
her father passed away a month later. Mom, not just introduced somebody new, went off, eloped, married somebody new. And a month later, she had a new stepdad living in her home, sleeping in the room.
How did that work out?
Horribly.
I bet.
It was super stressful on all of them. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Man, what a terrible way to do it.
Right? So, but my point is having empathy of where the kids are at. Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Everything Always Co. We just set it up and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode. You just really have to be careful about all of the moves that you make, because you want to show your kids, you don't want to be a martyr and say, I'm never gonna find happiness in my life again because this happened. I want you guys to be good. So you guys have me all to yourself. You also want to show them that you get to have happiness in your life too, because you want them to find happiness in their life and not grow up to say, oh, I've got to only be dedicated to you.
It is a balance.
You've got to balance showing that they're a priority, that you also know how to make another relationship a priority, that you know how to make yourself a priority. But at the same time, how you can successfully do that is by having empathy. Because when you have empathy, you just naturally are considerate about how you do things and how you listen. And I believe that people can feel it, not just like, I hear what you're saying and I acknowledge it. People can feel whether you actually have empathy and understanding of what they're going through. And so
I don't think you can fake empathy.
You can't fake empathy. I mean, you can say words, but you just know
You'll just be
an
like,
energy thing.
I totally, I feel like you're saying things, but I know you don't mean it.
Yeah.
So don't fake empathy. And if you are, you're just pretending that you're not a narcissist.
Oh my gosh. So you really want to validate their feelings and also be accepting of the feelings that they're having. A big fear that kids will have is that they might be rejected for the feelings that you have, because they're going to be like, oh, dad's going to be so mad at me because I'm not happy for him that he's dating somebody new. Now he's going to be upset with me. So I have to pretend that I'm happy with it. Let them know that you're accepting of all the feelings and be like, you know what, dude, I'd feel that way too, probably, if I went through that. And you may have gone through divorce yourself, your parents having gone through a divorce, or maybe you haven't, but you've gone through similar feelings. We've all had the feelings of anger, fear, loss, sadness. We've had those feelings for different things. So do your best as an adult to empathize and understand where those feelings are, what those feelings are. And let them feel accepted for it, not pushed away because of it.
And as we always get back to, sometimes you don't, as the adult, you don't get what you want. You have to put yourself second. You have to understand that you've made decisions that have brought you to the place that you are. And sometimes you have to give something more time. You need to give more consideration to the other people that are in your sphere, that you have, that are in your world. And sometimes you don't get to just have it the way, right? Mm-hmm. Your decisions have consequences. Sometimes you got to live by them.
Yep.
Okay, sorry to get all serious.
No, so another thing, once you're at this, acceptance of feelings, something really helpful is now give them something that they can do with those feelings. Not just, okay, I've had these feelings, but now what's something that I can do? What's an actionable thing I can do when I feel this way?
Besides bury them deep
Right.
inside.
So if they're saying, you know, well, I'm really afraid, you know, I'm happy that you're happy, Mom, but I'm afraid that I'm going to lose you to this other guy, or that I'm not going to have you to myself anymore. You can start to do things like, well, you know what?
Let's make a plan.
Let's make a plan. How about every Thursday we do this together? Or how about we make sure that you and I have our one-on-one time together?
Or we have a special code. Whenever you're feeling like that, you do this, and then I'll know, and then we can work through it. So you always know that you can have a voice.
Yep. So one thing,
you know, okay, keep going.
What?
Nothing. It's funny because it's like our kids are getting older, and I feel like we've had some of these conversations literally, and it seems like a long time ago, but I remember how real those feelings were at those times for everybody, right?
For everybody. And it's so funny because, listen, we were just, you know, on our trip with all of us. It's hard now to get all 4 of the kids and us on a trip, especially with Justin, our oldest, because he's got so many things going on.
Schools and schedules
and like a band and like things that he's like, no, I got to do this. So to have all of us together was so awesome. And we were talking about, you know, all of these things that were such a big deal at that time. And they should have been, because they were a big deal, but how they think of it differently now. One thing I remember, in speaking of like giving an action to do, we, you know, with Logan used to have really hard time with anger and how he could deal with his anger. And it was like the boys had a room together, and he was always like, you know, my older brother like doesn't like me, or I'm annoying him, or there was all these things. And so his feelings would get hurt. Then he'd get angry and he'd have like a temper tantrum. And so we did this thing like, okay, what can you do when you're feeling angry? And I used to call, and he was really young at the time. And I'd see like, press the stop button. And the stop button was like in the middle of this, like, where do you feel it? You feel it in your gut and in your heart area. Press the stop button, take 10 deep breaths, find an adult, and we'll help you through it. And sometimes he would do it like, I pressed the stop button. And sometimes he was just like, I couldn't do it. I'm too angry. But like, there was something that he could do. And it's kind of amazing now how he is, because it was an important thing for us. Like, we accept that you're angry. We're not going to we understand that you're going through this. What can we do together to help you through it? And I feel like, you know, of course, there's just maturity in itself, but I feel like giving them tools and things that they can go to when they have these emotions helps them as an adult with maturity, and also just having that high, like, emotional intelligence. You know what I mean? Like going, okay, I don't have to get all out of control. I can actually, there's things that I can do, and I have parents that support me and accept when I feel this way and can help me get through it.
Right.
Okay. And then the next one really is just encouraging questions at any time, not just during the hard conversation, but in the future, because you'll notice kids have different personalities. Some kids are just like, oh my gosh, you asked my opinion, and now I'm just going to like vomit out all this stuff. Like, Chloe is a talker. Chloe will talk. Chloe, let's talk about this. And she'll talk about all the things and say what she needs to say. Whereas we might have Justin, who's just like, I'm not going to talk right now, but he'll talk later, because some people have to process it.
Yeah, you're like that.
I'm like that too. It's just like,
when
right now,
gets mad at me, you literally just have to acknowledge, be like, okay, hey, listen, I know you're upset. When you're ready, in a week or two, I'm ready. I'm here and available to talk to you.
I process. Yeah, I'm definitely somebody who's just like, I need to process all this.
But she wears it on her face. You can tell like instantaneously when Summer's mad, but she won't let it out.
I can't. Yeah, I can't hide it. So the thing is like, just because they might not be saying or asking a bunch of questions during that initial conversation doesn't mean that it's not that something isn't happening in their brain. And sometimes it's like, it's just gotta like, they gotta like think about it. They've got to process their thoughts and emotions. Just let them know, hey, whenever you want to talk about this, like, ask me a question. And Logan has done that before. He'll be like, remember when we were talking about such and such? Can we talk about that again? Because I have a question. Yeah, totally. Let's talk about it. That came up once with the sex conversation.
Oh boy.
Remember, I have a question. Okay. put my awkward helmet on and get my mindset straight. Just acknowledge those things. I know this is awkward. This is awkward, isn't it? It's totally awkward.
But
totally
it's
embarrassing.
important that you have this
But
information.
it's important. Let's just get all awkward and talk about it. So anyways, these are the things that what you're doing is just creating a place of safety, and hard conversations are hard to have when people feel unsafe. So by doing these things, you really instill trust. It will strengthen your bond, and it just lets them know that you take their thoughts and their feelings really seriously. These are important things. We're all human and we have different approaches to how we process hard stuff. So I think that if you can incorporate just these few things that we talked about, it really does go. I don't know, this might be, I think we may have talked about this once before, but I just kind of wanted to piggyback on all of this stuff because it kind of relates. But we were talking about this on our family trip, the having individual time with the different kids in your family. And I thought I'd bring it up because those are good times to have those hard conversations. So we were at dinner and Justin brought it up actually. He's like, remember when we did that trip? You know, I did a trip with him and then I did a trip with each of the kids. And he was like, we should do that again. I was like, yeah, we totally should. Where basically the idea is, and I think we may have talked about this in one of our earlier podcasts, but I'm going to just kind of go over it with you guys really quickly. If you are in a blended family situation, actually, no matter what, just kids involved, it's a really awesome way to stay connected with your kids. And we haven't done it in like a couple of years outside of little private dates with our kids. You can do private dates or trips. Right now, it's probably easier to do like a little date. But the idea is that, like for our family situation, I would have alone time with Justin. I would have alone time with Logan, alone time with Ashlyn, alone time with Chloe. Mike would do the same with each of the 4 kids. And I learned this from a group called it, I don't know that they do it anymore, but they had this thing where you would go on this surf camp trip and it was called board meetings, like surfboard board meetings. And you went and you had this time with just one of your kids. But what they taught you was that once a quarter with each of your kids, you have a minimum of 4 hours with that person where you're not watching a movie. You're actually doing something where you're engaging with each other and you're doing some, maybe it's playing a game. Maybe it's like, I don't know, building something. It's just something where you have that quality time, just the 2 of you. And it sounds like, wow, once a quarter, shouldn't it be more than that? Well, the thing is that actually, because of our busy lives, that actually is a lot of time just to be the 2 of you, because most of the time you might be in the car taking them to some activities. You're like, we have alone time all the time. We've gone to the store. We've done this. But this is really about one-on-one focused time, like a half a day or 4 hours where you're really just the 2 of you talking about stuff. And so what we're doing now is planning those times. And then we're going to plan like an overnight trip or something with each of those kids where you have a longer time. You don't have to do the
and
trip.
It's really fun.
That can get expensive. But
the kids get to look forward to something that you're going to do together. And it really makes them feel special.
Yeah.
And it gives you dedicated time to like bond.
What it does too is it fuels them and carries them through like, okay, I'm so excited because at that date that you have, you schedule the next date. So every time you have a date with them, you schedule the next one. So it's like they have that to look forward to. And really, you should let them choose what that's going to be. Because it's something that you get to get involved with them, but it empowers them.
Get ready to go to Chuck E. Cheese.
Get ready to go to Chuck E. Cheese, or more maybe it's what are those rooms that we've done before?
We've done all kinds of fun stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, usually it's something that...
I can't think exit rooms.
No, they're called escape rooms.
Escape rooms, exit rooms.
You know what's really funny is our kids are super smart. I'm in there going like, than us. How the hell am I going to get out of this room? And they're like, well, you've got this. And I think they actually might be smarter than us.
I think so.
They've basically figured out the hard level of escape rooms, which are these like places where you pay them to like get trapped.
Yes.
And then there's a mystery that you have to solve while trying to get out of this maze.
The thing is that when you have something that you're working towards together in that amount of time, you just naturally bond. It's great. This is like team building stuff. If any of you have done this like within your jobs or you're entrepreneur or whatever, I do this with my team. It's like our way to, let's go. We're going to hike here. We have to get to the top, or we're going to do an escape room, or we're going to go. There's like different challenges that you do and you come together, and it's just so much fun. So what I wanted to add to that is that we as parents get so busy with all the things that we're doing. You're not setting yourself up for disappointment by doing it once a quarter. If you were like, I have to do this every single week, if you can do it every single week, great. Like we try to do a date night, just the two of us every single week, like where it's actually like we're doing something just the two of us, even if it's like we're sitting down and we're playing dominoes.
Because it's good for your marriage.
It's good for your marriage. But what it does is it makes you're like, cool, I can do that. It's totally doable for me to do that once a quarter. And then my spouse is going to do that once a quarter as well. Because you're still doing all the other stuff that you normally do where you have dinners together and all that kind of stuff. The idea is that it's just the two of you. There's no other sibling tagging along. It's just the two of you.
And it's something you planned and scheduled that makes them feel super special.
Exactly. So hopefully those things are helpful next time you have to dive into a hard conversation. Just wanted to tag on that little bonus of something that we do and that we're going to pick up again because...
Don't avoid the conversation. Have the hard conversations. It's important. And they're not fun. It's just part of being a parent. You got to do it.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
Rip it off.
You'll be better for it. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Our goal is to bring you all kinds of value that will help you navigate these challenging waters of blending a family.
Reach out to us if there's something specific you want to hear.
And don't forget to like, rate, and subscribe to the podcast.
And if you really like it, share with someone you love.
Ooh, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't.